You're listening to Quantum Conversations with Karen Curry Parker. Join us as we explore new frontiers in consciousness, science, and evolution. And now here's your host, Karen Curry Parker.
The world is changing faster and faster with each rotation around the sun. Recently, my husband was reading the New York Times and he found an obituary for Mary Edelman, a woman who repaired typewriters in New York City. Writers from all over the city would hang out in her shop, connecting and communing while they waited for their typewriters to be healed. When I reflected on this story, I realized that I only used a typewriter while I was in high school. When I started studying journalism in college, my parents gifted me a word processor. It was clunky and an extremely heavy machine, but it made my life a lot easier. Yesterday, I got a new iPad. Literally within 1 minute after waving my iPhone at it, my new iPad immediately downloaded all my data from the cloud, and it was ready to go. Our collective spiritual journey is much like the evolution of the typewriter. It has evolved and changed dramatically in the last 35 years. Some of you may have jumped onto this evolutionary path with the movie The Secret, or What the Bleep Do We Know, or through listening to Abraham Hicks or studying New Thought. Our external world is an outpicturing, a manifestation of the evolution of our consciousness. To me, the fact that things in our outer world change so quickly simply illuminates the fact that our consciousness is evolving rapidly. Quantum physics was first defined as a body of knowledge in 1920. Not coincidentally, the New Thought and Theosophy movement, which includes the work of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, Madame Blavatsky, Ernest Holmes, Rudolph Steiner, and even Napoleon Hill, emerged around that same time. If our outer world is a manifestation of our consciousness, think of the depth and speed at which our consciousness is evolving right now. John Burgos, the creator of the Beyond the Ordinary show, has had a front row seat to this evolutionary journey we're on. Over the last 5 years, John has hosted lightworkers, spiritual teachers, and leading-edge global change agents on his show, bearing witness to powerful new teachings, the initiation of new healing codes and frequencies, and learning from some of the world's top spiritual leaders. His unique perspective has given him a viewpoint on the changes at hand that make him uniquely qualified to talk about how we've grown, changes and evolution in consciousness, and what exactly is up on the planet right now. Join me for this unique quantum conversation as we discuss what's really up on the planet, where we've been, and where we're headed. Hi, I'm Karen Curry Parker. Welcome to Quantum Conversations. Today I am talking with John Burgos. John was moved by a profound shamanic experience that ignited his trust in his own innate intuitive abilities. In his journey of discovering the world and the world beyond the ordinary, he created, about 5 years ago, the Beyond the Ordinary show, where over the last 5 years he has showcased some of the leading edge consciousness experts who have brought to us information about what's up on the planet, how can you connect better with source, how can you tap into your own power, how can you connect with angels, guides, how can you access the quantum field. I'm probably covering a very small tip of the wide variety of conversations that John has had on his show. And I have been a guest on his show a couple of times, and it's always been a really delicious experience because John is, in my opinion, one of the most gifted, brilliant conversationalists / interviewers I've ever worked with. And I wanted to bring him here to you guys today because I want you to hear some of the stories of what he's seen and witnessed on his own journey of personal growth and evolution, what he's been doing on his Beyond the Ordinary show. And I wanted to have you guys listen to his brilliance so that you can participate and share in his passion and his purpose of celebrating the diversity of consciousness and the power of the shift that I think we're all kind of feeling in some way, sense or form. So welcome, John. I'm so excited to have you here. I've been looking forward to this for a long, long time. So it's fun to switch the mic around.
I've been looking forward to it for quite a while also. And yes, I do host transformational leaders from around the world. And I love our conversations. I love having you on the show and what you bring. And it's not only how grounded your work is, but how esoteric it is also, or perhaps vice versa. It's so balanced. And I think that's really what's needed right now for all of us individually who've been exploring realms and this human potential within ourselves. And it's, again, what you bring to the table, it's such a gift. So to be on the other side of the mic with you, this is going to be fun.
Well, good. Thank you. So I have to first find out what inspired you to create this platform where you have really brought in some powerful, transformative global change agents. What did you just wake up one day and say, I'm going to have all these people on my show? Or
it almost felt that way, to be honest with you. I was working for another speaker who was building out a platform, and we worked together for about 4 years, and there was a transition point afterwards. I knew I needed to grow into something else, and I didn't quite know what that was going to be, so I kind of held steady and waited for the information to come to me. And I could have gone into private practice. I could have coached people individually, but something bigger was calling. I felt like I wanted to reach more people, and if I were to go into a private session, if I can reach 200 people a year, it'd be a lot. And I really felt like these conversations that were new to a lot of people that were in my quote unquote old circle of friends, it really needed to be shared. These weren't conversations and tools that I had an awareness about in my previous lifetime, if I can call it that, because that's what it feels like. But once I had access to this information and to this other sense of awareness, and again, the gifts that people like you bring to the table, Karen, my whole world shifted in ways that were only beneficial. And not only did my world shift, it also shifted my children's. It shifted my relationship with my parents, with my coworkers, and how I build platforms. So I knew that I wanted to create something larger. And I held and held and held. And I was familiar with shows and telesummits, how we present beyond the ordinary. But I wasn't quite sure how I was going to create it. And the inspiration came. And it all really came from a desire of wanting to expand the reach of the potential that's available through all of us, through collaboration, through world experts such as yourself.
And I think it's an interesting format. And the place where I really want to dive deep with you here for a minute is, I know that you've been on a journey of personal growth and evolution for more than 5 years. Obviously, 5 years is the show, but this has been your life experience. And, you and I are of similar age, and we've kind of had a little bit of conversation around this. But, I used to get Abraham Hicks cassettes, in the mail. I mean, that's how long I've been at this, right? And you laugh because you know what I'm talking about. I know.
Oh, yeah.
If I say that to my kids, they're like, "What's a cassette, Mom?" But this personal growth and development field, or spiritual consciousness field, or whatever this is that we're doing, it has transformed, I think, dramatically. And at the same time, I also think that we had kind of this huge surge around 2005 where we started mainstreaming some of the ideas that some of us had been sitting with, in the 90s when we were sitting in rocks in Sedona on vortexes, right? And we sort of had this whole idea of, I create my own reality. The movie The Secret came out, What the Bleep came out. We kind of had this sort of renaissance, and then it seemed almost like it went dead. Like it just was like, okay, great. Poof, nothing for 10 years, I think, plus or minus. And now it's like all of a sudden we have this resurgence. I mean, I'll say even Shirley MacLaine came back out of being, dormant for a lot of years. So talk to me a little bit about what you have seen in the evolution of this information. And even I kind of want to know, have you seen a change or a resurgence, or what do you think's been going on over the last 15 years?
Oh gosh, it's been a big change. And I have to I kind of want to start backwards, and I really want to state that we're just really at the tippy tip of what's available to us. And the people such as yourself and other just amazing teachers that have been at the forefront, blazing trails for all of us, was so important. And what I found when I first discovered this information, this type of work, these energies that are available to us, there were a lot of leaders that were doing work solo. They were out there and they really felt like they were on an island by themselves. It was very fractured and segmented from my point of view, from what I saw. And a lot of people that thought that it was their job to save the world, if you will, which I found really interesting. And these teachers carried this sense of responsibility, and I've got to get this information out, and I've got to do it on my own, and I can't let anybody in. It was so interesting. And there was a small community, but the community didn't really feel cohesive to me. Mm-hmm. And what I've noticed through the years, especially after 2012, was that paradigm really started to shift. And we found that these teachers were finding that they were more powerful in collaboration and in solo. It was just, that was the time, the season for them to do that. And the energies had shifted where it was more beneficial to them as individuals to have someone help carry the energy instead of them doing it on their own, and perhaps they would grow more from it as well. It's almost like they hit a wall. They carried that wall and what they knew, the information that they had, and they shared it with as many people as possible. But their self-growth was only progressing as the information came to them through their own practice. And I found that people started reaching out, and then in this community, even the energy of being in collaboration and cohesion with other people who carry a similar vibration or perhaps higher, and we all take turns going back and forth when we co-create anyway, it gave us permission to grow in ways that we didn't give ourselves, or perhaps we weren't ready to receive before. And I feel that that's one of the biggest shifts, and why the collective is also latching on and saying yes to this information. Since we've given ourselves permission to go out there and co-create with other people, I find that more people that perhaps were not as open to have these conversations, to believe in that energy has a huge impact on us on an individual basis and how we structure our lives, they've opened up to the potentiality. But I think we had to open up to saying yes to being out there invisible in a way that we hadn't given ourselves permission to before.
I love that. And I think the other piece that I'm really actually noticing more now than ever is that, I had a radio show on Blog Talk Radio many years ago when it was still a format that was in beta. So
wow.
Probably just after I stopped receiving cassettes. And, I would, of course, query guests. And just to kind of, prove your point here is I'd get so many emails back from people about, well, I'm the only one doing da-da-da-da-da, right? And mm-hmm. I kind of, at a certain point, I just sort of backed off because I just thought, it's exhausting to try to work through this wall to get people to really talk in a more collaborative way or in a more open way. And what I think is so fascinating now, particularly doing a podcast and kind of revisiting this whole idea of bringing people in and talking to people, is that there seems to be a thread of consciousness that is running through all of us, and we're all just carrying little facets of it. And I don't hear that same consciousness anymore of, I have the best blah, 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 or I'm the only one who's...
Right.
It's really more like we're all playing with the same theme, and we're all sort of adding our own little piece of the theme, but we're all part of this unified theme that's unfolding in such a powerful and beautiful way. And it's been pretty exciting, I think, at this stage of the game to bear witness to that energy of collaboration and community that I think you just spoke of.
And it's really important, and it actually demonstrates what's going on in the next wave of this consciousness movement. So as these teachers, as we've opened up and given ourselves permission to be more out there in different ways and collaborate, we're bringing in new community, people that are saying yes to these conversations. And I get it all the time. People say, I didn't know anyone in my community or in my circle that I can have these conversations with. It's so great to find this community. And that's wonderful that people are finding places where they can feel a sense of understanding and home. But it's also an invitation for everyone that's just found that sense of home, if you will, to open up and say, hold on a second, I'm actually going to give myself permission to have these conversations in the open. It's time for us to get out of the closet.
Yes.
Spiritually, and really give ourselves permission to have these things that nurture our heart and souls in ways when we express them out loud. And again, the teachers that came before us, and while they were on their island and then had their, I'll call it their safe community that they were speaking to, they, again, blazed trails in their willingness to open up and expand and collaborate with other teachers on podcasts like yours and mine, on stages that perhaps they wouldn't have spoken of before because, perhaps it would have been misunderstood or questioned. And it's just a fractal on what's going on in the bigger community, in the bigger collective, as more and more people find these spaces for these people also to say, yes, I'm open to be open about this more than I ever have. And that's what's really causing, for me, the changes collectively that we're seeing in the world, because we're allowing those positive forces to provide us a foundation that we didn't give ourselves before. And from that foundation, we can really build the type of life that we've always known is available, but somehow we weren't able to reach because we were still functioning from the old structures that were based on scarcity and judgment and limiting beliefs that only served the collective, but didn't really serve the individual. And really, we need to serve the individual first, so the individual can find their creative voice, their consciousness, and from there, the individual can make the difference for the collective.
Yeah, totally. All right, so I got to ask you this because you've had this beautiful vantage point over the last 5 years of listening to all of these different teachers come forth. What the heck is up on the planet, John?
Oh my God. 1 minute I think I know, the next minute I have no idea. It's so funny. And we're going through that, but we're going through a major restructure, and we're about to be birthed on the other side of the wormhole that we've been traveling through. So what's been happening is that we've been shedding the limiting beliefs, the limiting structures in so many different ways. And in the chaos of that shedding and the reorganization, we are experiencing chaos individually, and we're seeing chaos more abundantly. We're feeling it. Those of you that are listening to the show, because you are more than likely an empath, very likely a light worker, are open to these types of energies, you're going to feel it, and you're at the forefront of all the emotions that everybody in the world is feeling in one way or another. And I don't think anybody's immune for it, because the whole world is changing. So what's on the other side of it? The other side of it is, again, being more in our sovereign understanding of how we want to function in the world, as opposed to being led by lots of different energies that keep us in that confusion. And so once we get the opportunity to settle into our knowing, and if our knowing isn't complete enough for us at the time, having the opportunity to reach out to teachers and information that resonates for us is what's going to calm the field down, because it puts us back into our power. And from that power place, again, we get to create lives that are, again, on path with our purpose, with our passion, with those things that excite us, and also that support us really well in the process.
So are you seeing in all of these guests that you have sort of a common thread of what if I was going to open up my CNN news page and I'm just really emerging into a deeper spiritual understanding, I'm coming out of the closet, so to speak. If I was coming out of the closet right now, is there a common thread that you're seeing with all of these teachers that you're host to about what people need to do to stay settled in this time of upheaval?
What I'm seeing from the teachers that I really resonate with, and I learned so much from everybody that's on this show, and there's the sense of knowing and comfort when certain information is shared. And I can fall really easily into that when it comes up. And the common thread in that is that the other side of the shift in energy is already available to all of us. And what we need to do as individuals is really more of spiritual hygiene and keeping up with these tools that we've learned over the years. And I'm going to backtrack a little bit, Karen. I love the audience that we have on Beyond the Ordinary, and it keeps growing every day. It's that we get people from all over the world that listen, and we've got our faithful listeners, and I see them on the calls all the time, and it's so beautiful. And they provide so much to the platform also energetically and in the conversations and how we get to expand it. What I see some people doing, though, is they jump from one thread to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, and they accumulate all this information, but then nothing is done with the information. Or they get into a bit of confusion or not knowing, wanting to know what the next step is, but they're not pulling out the tools from the tool chest or the play chest to do that spiritual maintenance, to check in with themselves, to clear their field, to connect with their guides, to connect with their higher self and their own knowing, to receive the answers, to calm the field down, to get into their innate understanding. And if we did that first before we quickly reached out to help from all these amazing resources that are available to us, we would be in a much easier place to allow the grace and the flow that's available to all of us to step into what a lot of people like to refer to the 5D and above energies, because that foundation is already there for all of us. It's just, how do we sustain it there? How do we journey in between those energies and the foundation that we're leaving behind and firmly root ourselves into the higher vibrations that, again, are available to all of us now, that's just waiting for us to integrate by using, again, the tools that have already been gifted to us. But a lot of times we forget to do it.
Totally. And I love that you say that, because, I actually am just getting ready to launch it's actually a revised edition of a book I wrote in 2009 called Inside the Body of God. And I was reading it as part of the editing process, and I was going, man, this is so basic. Why, my guides were very clear that you need to re-release this book. And I was like, why do I have to re-release this book? I want to do something interesting. This is old. But they were very, very clear. And they said, we have to get back to basics, because the creative process itself, and we see this all the time, and I know I see this in your guests too, the creative process itself is pretty immutable. And it's pretty consistent, and it's actually pretty easy, and we have a tendency to, I think, because I think so many of us are empaths and light workers, and we are so sensitive, it's easy when you don't have a consistent practice to get destabilized, I think, and to get swept up into the flow of the perceived chaos. And then I think sometimes in response to that, we want to make it complicated. I teach a system called human design, which is a really freaking complicated system. It takes you about 2 years to learn it, right? But the root of the system is follow what feels good. I mean, that's kind of the whole gist of it, right? But we have to create this elaborate system and synthesize all these different esoteric sciences. And I think sometimes maybe because we're so trained still in Newtonian thinking, and Newtonian thinking says, first you do A, then B, then C, and there's an exponential growth between each letter, and you have to do it in a linear sequence, that somehow we think that if what we're creating is simple, then it's got to be bad because it's not as complicated as, G, F, or Z down the road. And
Right.
the truth is, I think now more than ever, we have to be harnessing our very innate and simple creative skills and our creative powers, and really using those powers actively. If you're not in joy, it's not because somebody's jamming your frequency. It's because you're not tuning into your frequency. And it means you might just need to lovingly and gently take your behind back to the meditation pillow once a day and stop reading the newspaper. And, I think sometimes that basic stuff again, I think we sort of think, oh, that's kindergarten creativity. That's kindergarten consciousness. But there's something about bringing it back to disciplined, and I hate to say that word. We don't like it, I think, sometimes, but being disciplined, or at least
it's spiritual
practice.
hygiene.
Yes, I love that phrase. I've never heard that before. It's powerful. Yeah.
It is, and I told this to everybody in the audience the other day. People were on the call, we were taking live calls, and people were asking questions. Well, how do I do it? I don't have time. I said, you know what? Do this, because this is so much more important than anything else right now on your schedule. So if you don't have time to meditate for 10 minutes a day, to write down creative ideas as they come in, to have some type of practice in place that's going to augment and really benefit your energetic body, skip brushing your teeth and skip taking a shower. Because really those aren't necessary on a continuous basis. What's happening with the energies right now and this wormhole that I call that we're going through is so much more important than those aspects. And if you have to choose your spiritual hygiene.
Totally. I have been doing transcendental meditation for, God, I don't even want to do the math anymore, but I'll just say more than 33 years.
Wow.
And so, every morning and every evening, with very rare exceptions, I think the days I gave birth to babies, I didn't meditate. But, and I probably should have, but I remember watching videos of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi in my training, and he would say, and I can't imitate his cute little voice, but he would say, if you think you don't have time to meditate more. It was like, because there's that awareness of, that's what you need more than anything else when you're feeling like, oh, I don't have the time. And, again, you don't have to be like rigidly disciplined. I don't want people, I think it's really not okay for some people to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and meditate when they've only just gone to bed 2 hours ago. It really is okay to sleep and rest, but to be practiced. And again, to not fall into, and I may get in trouble for saying this, and I mean this from the most sweet and loving place, but to not fall into spiritual ego of, oh yeah, I know that. If you know that, it's one thing to know it, it's another thing to do it. And you have to kind of sync that up so that you don't get yourself knocked off center. Because the thing is, and again, this is basic stuff, but important to remember that when we're not aligned with the edge of consciousness and this, seeing the light at the other end of the wormhole, then who's going to be leading us? That's the first question. And the second question, again, is it serves you and your own well-being to stay practiced, just because, we're having to gird our loins a little bit this time around. And it does take a certain amount of consistency in that groove of consistency to give us the centered place to hold true.
And with anything that we've accomplished in our lives, whether it were at work, if we've gotten promotions and done things that have been beneficial, or if you work out, go to the gym, do yoga, it's a practice that you've done, and you only get stronger and better as you do it. Why would this be any different? Why do we think that we can just fall into it and there it is? It's something that as we fall into intimacy with it, it's going to provide intimacy back. And we're looking for that in all areas of our lives, but we're not giving it to ourselves.
Yeah, totally. So I have one really interesting question for you. And actually, it's actually two questions. One of the things that happens to me a lot here is I interview people and then they say stuff. And of course, I'm always completely humbled by our guests. And, I have to fight with all my might to not jump up and down and go, wow, that was awesome. I didn't know that, so I do. How do you keep yourself from jumping up and down in your studio with enthusiasm? And then the second question is, in light of that answer, what is, of all the time, all the experiences you've had online, what has been the most transformative conversation you've had with someone? You don't have to drop names and you don't have to use mine. It's okay. But of all the conversations you've had, where was the one, or what was the one that stands out the most as the moment for you in your dialogues?
Oh, wow. How do I even touch that? How do I not jump up and down? For me, it's an exciting conversation. And so I am humbled, yes, like you say, by the people that show up, the teachers, the speakers, and the information that is shared. It's so beautiful and so profound. But what really touches me is the love that it's shared with. And that's what never leaves me. It's the intention in which you and my other guests show up. And it's so in alignment with the hearts of why I created the show, why I was guided to create the show. I wish I could take full credit for it, but I can't. It's that heart space I feel so full after each and every call, being in such giving, loving, benevolent energy. And that's what really affects me on a continuous basis. And whenever if I have those bouts where things don't feel right or I'm depressed, I just tap into that. And we think we're alone so many times, but look at all the people that show up on a continuous basis to remind us just how much love is available to us, how we're not alone. And it's just a question of us shifting our perspective to fall back into that remembering. One experience on a show that expanded, God, it's hard to say. It's hard to say. There's so many. Karen, just from profound conversations that just ignite a different awareness to people sharing energies and spinning energy fields and Merkabas or speaking light language and me feeling a sense of home, like I'm crying, understanding what they're saying, even though it sounds like what some people would call gibberish. It's all just, there's been so many amazing esoteric moments that it's hard to say that one just popped out. Having people channel beings from from Andromeda or from the Pleiades or from wherever, but it's cool that they can do that. But again, it's the essence of the message that's shared through their collective consciousness that's being streamed through that touches my heart every time. You can feel the benevolence. You can feel the truth in the information that's being shared and the support for us in human consciousness to assist us in how we're evolving and really falling into that grace that's available to all of us. So it's hard to put my finger on just one. It's a collective experience, and there's certainly some that absolutely stand out from others, but they all stand out in their own way. Beautiful.
So when does your next season start?
Next season starts not July 17th. God, time's weird for me right now also. The season starts again January. See, I'm going to June now. It's so funny. And that's what's going on in the energies right now. Season starts January 17th. It'll be our 15th season. We're starting 5 years of running the show, and we've got new speakers that somehow just seem to fall into my lap. And they just carry amazing information. We bring back some of our favorite speakers that just keep leveling up and bringing in new information, and also anchoring in some of the older information so that we can receive it in a way that supports us as we continue to grow vibrationally. So it's just a beautiful soup of energy that is all centered around the opportunity to bring in what people would consider beyond the ordinary, but that I really consider part of what is the potential of our daily experience.
Beautiful. Well said. You can find more about the Beyond the Ordinary show on beyondtheordinaryshow.com. Go there, sign up and listen, because John brings in some of the most amazing leading edge teachers and speakers, and you will learn something, you will find community, and you will find a path that's right for you. And, every path is different. You'll find the path that's right for you to help you stay grounded and centered in all of this. So, John, thank you so much for joining us for Quantum Conversations. And I am looking forward to continuing to participate and to watch the Beyond the Ordinary show and all the gifts and the brilliance that you bring to your unique platform that you give the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen. And I do have to mention that this year I'm actually expanding out, and we're going to start doing live events in Los Angeles. I'm going to do them once a month, beginning in January. So we're going to have live speakers coming out also, because I think it's time for that intimacy again. And so perhaps all of you guys listening, we can get Karen out sometime in 2018 out to Los Angeles and have her as a featured speaker also. But it'll be a lot of fun. And again, I just love sharing that space and expanding the energy, because again, when we can be in cohesion with that vibration that we're looking to bring into our lives, and to invite that into a space that I consider sacred because of the intention of why everybody's showing up in person, it just really amplifies the field. So I'm excited about that also. And I hope that we can create something with that, Karen.
I'll be there. You just tell me when. I'll be there.
Awesome. And other than that, thank you so much. It's been so fantastic being here, and an honor that you've invited me. So thank you.
Oh, our pleasure. Thank you. As we move towards a world of sustainable peace, we have to surrender our spiritual ego, the idea that we are more right, more evolved, and that we have the truth and others don't. In order for us to embrace the understanding that as a collective expression of unity consciousness, we are all part of the answer. We are all vital pieces of the cosmic puzzle, and that we won't create an elegant solution until we see the value of each individual piece of the puzzle. And of course, in doing so, create a heart-based community. I love that John's observation of the evolution of the past few years has involved a release of the need to protect and defend knowledge, and a deeper understanding and an emergence of a new desire to share and to collaborate. Together, we are truly better and stronger. Our energies united towards collaboration and creation. What can we do together? What do we each have to bring to the table? What can I share with the world are the questions we entertain now. There are no right answers, only an array of possibilities and potentials. In a quantum world, it is the meaning we give our lives, our experiences, and our understanding of who we are that causes us to manifest potentials into reality, manifest potentials into our lives. When we begin to embrace the power and the true meaning of unity, collaboration, community, sharing, and service, we will only speed up the already rapid changes we're seeing right now. I want to take a moment and celebrate you, my listeners, and honor your personal journey of evolution. Many of you have taken bold, courageous acts to place yourself powerfully on your path. Many of you have taken challenge and adversity and transformed it into opportunity for growth and expansion. I honor your courage, your spirit, your perseverance, your grit and determination, and most of all, I honor your heart. May it keep leading you forward towards a world of sustainable peace. If you'd like to learn more about the heart of who you truly are, please visit our Quantum Conversations Facebook page. While you're there, share a little bit about your own personal journey, your desires, and who you'd like to share a quantum conversation with. I'm Karen Curry Parker, thanking you for being who you are. Thank you for the vital role you play in the evolution of humanity. Together, we are evolving a powerful vision and a beautiful dream, and we can't do it without you.
Thanks for listening to Quantum Conversations with Karen Curry Parker. For more information, visit joyfulmission.com.